Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate people watching. We're amazed at how many people have decided to come along on our journey.
It's incredible.
No.
It's been absolutely fantastic. We've enjoyed every minute.
And thank you very much for subscribing. Subscription costs you nothing, but we might be able to earn a few bob from YouTube to be able to put towards creating more video content.
So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, as that will help us make more videos like this one.
So the other thing to say is that we've really welcomed all the comments that people have put in as well. So please continue putting comments in, making any suggestions, and we're looking forward to seeing you on our next part of our adventure. So we're just reflecting now on our journey as a whole, and we're going to be looking at some of the highs, the lows, some of the memorable moments.
So Peg, how was it for you?
Well, on the whole, I'm just delighted that we're both still in one piece and still married.
And you know, there were times when it was a challenge, it has to be said.
Yeah, you know, living together in a very small confined space does present some challenges, and it's not like you're on holiday, you're actually choosing a different way of life.
Yeah, so it's just like living in your house, but you're all living in one room where you do absolutely everything. You live, you sleep, you cook, anything and everything. And sometimes, you know, it does get a bit challenging because there's not another room you can go into to read quietly or anything like that.
Yeah, you can't even slam a door, can you?
You can't even slam a door. And if you did, it'd probably break. So you have to be ultra careful, obviously, in your motorhome.
Yeah.
But of course, the plus side is that every day you can have a brand new view, a new fairy tale castle to look at, a new ocean to look at, whatever it is. It just changes all the time.
And I appreciate for a lot of people as well, they're probably thinking, what have you got to moan about, because this is a dream that we have because we're going to work every day. But one thing I would say is there are challenges to travelling, because we're not just on holiday, we are travelling an awful lot as well, and that can be quite tiring. And I know this might sound like we're whinging. Not whinging, we're just talking about the realities. Most of the time we're having a really good time, but there are challenges.
But there's no question, would I prefer to be at work or would I prefer to be travelling? There is absolutely no competition. This is just an amazing way of life. We've got so many places we want to visit. We've got some amazing plans ahead of us.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully you might like to follow us on that journey.
And we know we're really lucky. So what were the highs for you then, Rob?
Yeah, so we've had a really good think about this because there was just so many things that we packed into a very short space of time. And one of those highs for me, and this is in no particular order actually, basically because we didn't come up with an order, was Carcassonne. So I'd never visited there before. You had heard of it before.
I'd heard of it, but I'd never actually visited before.
I just didn't realise how many fairy tale castles we were going to end up visiting while we were away. I mean, they're just everywhere, it appears.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing place. It just looked incredible. The campsite was very short walking distance away. And yeah, it was
a bit of magic.
It was a bit of magic. It was one of those things when you see it for the first time, you just go, wow, that's incredible. So yeah, that is definitely in my list of my highs.
I enjoyed it there too. I think for me, some of the things that I really did enjoy were the swimming pools, and particularly going to the municipal swimming pools. The first one that we visited was in Couloir, and that was just amazing. I'd never seen anything like that before, and I really did feel that the community should feel a real sense of pride in what they provide for the people who live there, because it was just a real joy, particularly when it was so hot. So I loved it there. And I also imagine as well for the children growing up in those areas that the visits to those pools will become very much their childhood memories of good days, you know, happy times with the family.
I mean, the other thing is sometimes because the weather was incredibly hot, it was,
it was a necessity.
It was a necessity to just cool down,
Yeah.
and the obvious way was to find a swimming pool.
Yeah.
So we were very lucky that we found a number along our way. We also went to Porto. Now I knew nothing about Porto. I had no preconceived ideas what it was going to be like, and it literally took my breath away. And we walked down through to where the river is, and there was just so much going on. It was a spectacular feast for the eyes. It was a popular destination, and there was river cruises and there were all the bridges. It was just nice just to walk along there. There's the restaurants, the bars.
There was loads to do, and I think that's true of most of the places which were the highs for me, were ones that I had very little expectation. I didn't know an awful lot about Porto before we went there, and it was a delight. Another high for me was actually going into Basque territory. I love the name of it for a kick-off, because to me it sort of was, I don't know, synonymous with things like danger and a little bit edgy. I think that was one of the things, I'd heard an awful lot as a child growing up about Basque separatists and sort of terrorism in these places as well, but it was just so beautiful. In fact, an awful lot of places when we were travelling around in Spain, the landscapes were just gorgeous. And I'm sure people in Larrabetzu would say they're not Spanish, because it was very clear from some of the graffiti and the slogans that were there that they did not want to be considered Spanish. They wanted to be known as Basque people. But I loved Larrabetzu. I loved the vibe in there. I loved the old town. The church was beautiful. But even things like when we went to the supermarket, we ordered some ham from there's a little tiny delicatessen part, and the lady offered us a slice each of the ham that we'd had to just taste it beforehand, and she was just so friendly with us.
Yeah, the hospitality was fabulous, but also the air we stayed in Larrabetzu
was the best.
Was probably one of the best, if not the best air we stayed on in the whole trip.
Free air, and it was just beautiful. It was designed beautifully, and that had lighting all through it in the evening and everything.
At night there was barbecues there for you to use.
There was children's play areas on it. It was just such a lovely thing for the community to provide for nothing for any visitor to come along to. And I know it's a way of encouraging people to come in to spend money, but I mean, even things that it wasn't that easy to spend a lot of money in Larrabetzu either. I did like it there. I loved the vibe, and I would definitely go back there again.
Definitely.
And so other things.
Well, for me, we went to Nantes. So this was on our to-do list. We'd been to Nantes previously, quite a few years ago now, and we really wanted to go back and see it again, because we'd enjoyed it so much the first time. And one of the things that I particularly enjoyed was going to see the mechanical elephant. We had visited this 10 years ago or whenever it was.
Yeah, it was at least that, I think.
And when we first went, it just wasn't a tourist destination. We didn't really know what it was ourselves. We just turned up on a Saturday and we paid for a ticket, which we didn't really even realise what we were paying for at the time.
No.
And we ended up sitting on this mechanical elephant and went for a ride round the dock. And it was a really bizarre situation. So we thought, oh, well, let's go back and see if it's still there. Well, not only is it still there, but it's now a really developed area of Nantes. And there was just so many people there. It was a really different experience. And we really enjoyed seeing the elephant again. We didn't ride it this time because you couldn't. It's that popular. All the tickets had sold out.
We couldn't get tickets, no.
But we've been on it before, so we really enjoyed just reacquainting ourselves with the elephant, getting a bit wet at the same time, and then went for a lovely meal afterwards.
We did. So, I mean, the other thing is, it's obvious that we punctuated all of our journey round by meeting up with family and friends as well. It was lovely to do the travelling, but I think I do love you very dearly, but I think having other people to share that with was good, and it was great for things like getting our washing done as well.
So one of the benefits of meeting people at strategic points along our journey was we could use their washing machine.
Yeah, we were spoiled, I must admit, we were spoiled. So other things that highs for you?
Well, Barcelona, the Sagrada Familia, and I'll probably not pronounce that correctly.
It was better than the Sangria Familia you were calling it earlier.
And that was a genuine mistake. One of my many genuine mistakes, unfortunately. Yes, Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Right, I had, again, no preconceptions what this was going to be like. I hadn't even seen a photo of it before, and it was just so different to anything else I've seen. It is literally like it's been carved out of solid rock. It's a cathedral, carved out of rock. I don't know the other way to explain it, because it really is unexplainable unless you actually go and see it. It's incredible.
For me, I think one of the most magical times for us as a couple was when we were at the Cathedrals Beach in northern Spain.
Yeah.
And we'd had a massive electrical storm. I love a thunderstorm. I know some people don't like them, but I really enjoy a thunderstorm. If I'm safe and inside, which we were, it woke us up in the middle of the night, and just going down to that beach and having such a busy beach all to ourselves at that dawn was just, it was pure magic.
I mean, we couldn't have timed it any better. The storm, you know, on that night, followed by going down to the beach as the sun came up.
Yeah.
It literally was probably the best thing that we did. It's probably our joint number one, to be honest, on the whole holiday.
For the sort of magical, the thing that you would really remember. And I think it was because we don't normally get up that early either. So
not
to
that
see
early.
dawn is quite unusual for us, but to see it on that spectacular beach was just absolutely magnificent. Well, what did you think of Mont Saint-Michel? I'd been to Mont Saint-Michel before and experienced it, but that was the first time for you.
First time for me, and it's just one of those amazing fairy tale castle type places. It's not something like I've ever seen before. I had seen a picture before I went, but again, just seeing it in reality was something else. I mean, there's literally miles of beach around it, so you can even walk around it and see it from different perspectives, or you can walk up to the top and look down and just see for miles across the beach. And the fact that it's still an actively working place, Abbey, people still live in there. I absolutely loved Mont Saint-Michel.
And Ronda was another place that I had no expectations of at all. I'd heard people say it was pretty, but I hadn't even seen photographs or known what to expect of it. And we had the added bonus of Jeannie and Ian taking us in, showing us around for the day at all the sites there. That was just such a beautiful place. Granada Alhambra is just, I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah, I mean, this didn't make our top 10, and that's ridiculous.
Because it would make anybody's top 10, because it's just so beautiful.
It'll be many people's number one.
Yeah.
So that is how good it was. That's how many things we did in such a short period of time. Granada Alhambra, maybe number 11, but
we were spoiled,
fantastic.
Absolutely spoiled. And on another day it might have made the top one, I don't know. It was beautiful.
Yeah. And it's a place that we were very keen to go and visit, and we weren't disappointed.
Firstly, we were delayed for a week because of one of the windows needed to be fitted and there was problems with it. Now, what we didn't mention in this as well is the week before that, both Rob and I had COVID.
Yeah, so that was just really bad timing.
So, yeah, it was, you know, when you're trying to pack up a house and we were moving from a 2-bedroomed house to put everything into a van, it was a bit of a struggle. So in some ways, the delay for a week, although it was a low, it afforded us a bit more time to do things.
Yeah, that's true. I think one of the lowest moments, as ridiculous as this sounds, was when we turned up at Arronches and it was 39 degrees, I think, Peg, and we just were desperate to cool down. Okay, we're absolutely gutted here. We were so looking forward to a dip. The pool looks absolutely amazing.
I'm melted.
And we've just found the notice board that says it's closed on Mondays, which is today. The one day we get here, it's closed. Wow. The van was baking hot and we just needed to go somewhere to cool down. We'd heard that there was a municipal swimming pool. We turned up at this pool in anticipation of this beautiful
Cooling off
opportunity, and it was closed. And what was so frustrating was we could see this beautiful pool through the fencing around the edge.
I know, we were both like,
and we were like peering through. I was seriously considering climbing over the fence to get in the pool.
If I'd had the strength to get over, I probably would have climbed over just to get a quick dip in the pool.
We actually lost just quite a significant amount of euros in cash. So we'd been to a supermarket, we'd got the euros, and I thought Peg had got the euros, Peg thought I'd got them. Well,
we'd just been packing up a whole house, and would say to anybody, if you're going to get, because we had €600, that we thought, well, we'll need some spending money while we're away. And what neither of us did was take any real responsibility, accountability for them to put them in a safe place. So we'd lost them, and we didn't realise that we hadn't packed them or hadn't prioritised that until we were over in France.
No.
For some families that would have meant end of the holiday really, but we were in a fortunate position that we could still carry on. And carry on we did.
Yeah. Albeit our budget was significantly smaller than we'd originally planned, but hey ho, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah. So other things were the infestation of ants.
Yeah.
That was not an enjoyable time. It forced my hand to really spring clean the van because the ants were in the fridge and everything. So I'm even itching thinking about it now. But that was not a happy
Not a nice time. And this all happened at the same time. The fridge had packed up at this time, so we'd got no fridge. There was no ice. We'd got no cold drinks at all. It was a bit of a difficult time, especially when it was so hot. And then to top all that, the water pump then started failing as well.
Yeah, it was like everything happening at once.
So we had a bit of a bad week really, and and it was a case where we had to do something about it. It got to the point where we're either going to have to go into a campsite that had electric, so we could get the fridge working again, or we were going to have to fix these issues ourselves. So we had to go, and wow, we surprised ourselves by
fixed them.
We replaced the water pump successfully. And we also fixed the fridge successfully. That's incredible, because I wouldn't normally want to go messing with that sort of thing, but
you did it.
But we did it. So under no circumstances should you ever do this. Okay, so this is where the gas comes through, and the end's a bit rusty. The ants was a bit easier to get to resolve, so.
And they had these ferrierias or whatever they are, which were really helpful. But I was really impressed with Rob and his skills, and I said that he should have another channel of Budget Bob.
Budget Bob. So yeah, you heard it here first. Watch out for Budget Bob or Budget Bob or whatever.
Budget Bob fixes a job. The other thing is, we were in Puerto San Miguel at the time, and there was an absolutely lovely place to go and eat. So we ate the breakfast, dinner, and tea one time because we had ants everywhere, the fridge wasn't working, the water pump was gone, but we were fortunate enough to have a really nice eatery that wasn't too expensive. Within 5 minutes walking distance of us. So, whenever you get these lows, you find something that'll balance it out.
I mean, one thing that surprised me, I don't want to keep going on about the ice situation, but you can't actually buy ice everywhere in Europe. I mean, many supermarkets do sell ice, but there are many that don't, and it just surprised me the number of places we went into to ask if we could buy a bag of ice, and they just don't sell it. I wouldn't want anyone to think I'm obsessed about ice, but look what we just found in the local supermarket.
It wasn't the end of the world, was it? We got fined in Portugal, and that was something where please learn through our pain. If we had researched a little bit more before we went through into Portugal, we might have found out how to go through the toll booths, but we just literally followed the vehicle in front of us, who must have had a prepayment tag, and we got stung for €50.
The other thing that, of course, that we happened quite early on was the wing mirror. We clipped a wing mirror in a little village in France, and that was a bit of a pain. So we, in the end, went through the whole 6 weeks with a broken wing mirror. It was cracked, it was still usable.
A lot of places in France are closed in August as well, so a lot of local boulangeries, for instance, and you probably noticed that as we were going through, were closed. But what would happen as well was there'd be 2 boulangeries in a village, and both would be closed at the same time. We didn't understand why they didn't sort of negotiate, so one was on holiday for 2 weeks and the other one was on holiday for the other 2 weeks of August, but both would be closed and it'd be end of, you couldn't get any bread.
No, so that was rather strange, especially because you might go into a free air and that might say, oh please could you use the local shops, in exchange for staying here for nothing.
Yeah,
So
put
that-
something into our local economy.
Yeah, so some heirs request that you do that, which is fine. We're delighted to do that. But we found but there wasn't always the opportunity to spend money in the local village. So that is a real shame. It is amazing the number of times we've turned up somewhere and it's closed. Oh, you come on a Monday, they don't open on a Monday. Oh, we're on holiday. We've turned up at 2 people's houses, they've not been there. I wonder if they're trying to tell us something.
Yeah, a lot of the bar tabacs were open in France, so you could go and buy a
Yeah.
beer or a coffee or whatever, or go and bet if that's your thing. But a lot of boulangeries were
Yeah,
shut,
yeah.
and both Rob and I love bread, cakes, pastries,
Pastries?
anything like that. So we were really looking forward to sampling, because it's just beautiful going into those places.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were shut.
So I think that pretty much wraps up the Lowe's, Peg, I'd
Yeah,
say.
I think so.
Yeah, so nothing too bad there really, is there? Because there was no mechanical issues with the van or no serious issues really.
So what were the most memorable moments for you?
Well, I think it's the funny things that happened for me really. I mean, it was great that we got things like the fridge working again and that sort of stuff. But the washing machine incident. It's now on the spin cycle and rinse. It's quite an efficient machine, very little electric. Runs on beer, a view, and the sun. It was a really bizarre situation, though, wasn't it? Because you had this outside sink
Yeah,
to do the washing, so it was just in keeping with that, really, wasn't it?
it was. And I mean, the thing is, we had the weather to dry it all outside
Yeah.
as well, didn't we? It was absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
And I also found it quite funny when we said Peg does a runner from the restaurant. Literally, it was hammering it down with rain. I mean, the temperature's been so hot. It was so.
I don't know why we were running either, because it was just enjoyable to be out in the rain.
I know, but it was
Well,
so
it's
heavy.
it's a natural thing, isn't it? When it starts
Yeah.
pouring down, you run.
It's a natural reaction, but it'd been so hot, and then we had the beautiful coolness of this rain. It was just funny as I was chasing you around to the motorhome as we were getting soaked through.
So good.
But, definitely not one I'm going to forget for a long time.
I think one of the things that I really remember, and it was the kindness of when we were staying in Bonlieu, Rubin, I think it is, in south of France, and we'd come back from the swim. We had the whole swimming pool to ourselves, which was magic. And then the fella there had left us like tomatoes and garlic on the step, and we'd come back another time and there was a whole load of apricots and peaches.
Yeah, it was lovely. He didn't speak a word of English, so you communicated with him in French.
Well, I knew how to say merci.
But
it was just so kind of him to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it was that was another magical moment.
Yeah, a little human touch.
And I'll never forget the driveway going into Rhondda. So when we went to meet Jeannie and Ian, and we stayed on sort of in their on the drive of their house. We parked up on the driveway of their house for a couple of days, but we hadn't taken into consideration that there was going to be all these low slung branches from the trees as we went down the driveway. So Ian and Rob wasted no time
chopping branches
coming out.
down.
They're taking branches down. They were holding up branches with poles. That was just so we could drive down the driveway, and we had to do it again on the way out. That was a bit of a bizarre situation, but we managed to do it.
Yeah.
And then there was other funny incidents where Peg was trying to film me going under a low bridge, and she was actually filming herself instead of me.
It's the gormlessness on my face when I'm trying to do it as well.
And actually that happened many times. Peg often had the camera thinking she was filming certain things, and she was actually filming herself.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I've still learned.
No, Peg's still
trying.
really trying.
Yeah. And then Rob with his puddings.
Oh, the puddings.
The mistake you made over ordering
Lord.
2 puddings. Just look what Rob ordered by mistake.
It was a genuine mistake. I don't know how it happened, but I guess I'm just going to have to eat them. Yeah.
And also the size of that cake that you taught me into buying when we were in Granville.
I mean, it was a genuine mistake. I mean, it's just one of those things. But then we had to eat all those puddings, didn't we?
No wonder I'm the size I am.
But it was great fun.
Yeah, it's been a good time.
Yeah. And we also found that free electric in Arronches.
Oh yeah.
that was also,
It's a bit of a bonus.
no, nobody, well, it's very rare to get anything like free electric. So rare that I think that is the only time I've ever had free electric from an Air. And
we went in,
amazing.
I mean, we did buy food there in the local
Yeah.
supermarket and things like that, but we went that night to specifically find a place to buy beer, and they only do it in like 7-ounce glasses or something like that, but it was €1
amazing.
for a glass of beer. It's like you couldn't give them the money, you know,
No.
to spend on the electric, but it was, I'd definitely go back to Arranches again.
Yeah.
I think it's a good place for people to visit.
It's those little things. Peg and I was talking about this earlier. It's just the little things that make you remember places and actually give you the polish on a particular day. So it's
Yeah, I mean, we were talking before about you know, our highlights and everything and the places we really loved. Granada was just absolutely fascinating, and obviously Alhambra is just a magnificent palace. But one of the things we really enjoyed about Granada were the fountains that they had in the city, and also we found a fantastic cafe that did absolutely beautiful cakes. So they're the kind of things that you remember as well. It's not just the major things that you go sightseeing, it's the other things like where you have your coffee and
that's it. It's all those bits around the edges, and if it's an air-conditioned restaurant as well.
happy days.
Very happy days.
Here's some previously unseen footage that we thought you might like to see.
Peg and I have been for a paddle this afternoon. No pool, no problem. Just simply fill washing up bowl with cold water. And we're in the middle of this lovely French field. Beautiful.
I've been inspired by Rob because he's had a go at tackling the fridge that had broken, and one of the things that has been getting on my nerves a little bit is the state of this cooker. So one thing I'm going to tackle today is to try and clean all this mess up, and I'm going to use
Fisherman's friend.
other makes are available.
Okay, so we're coming back to Peg. This is now 2 days later. She hasn't slept much, but let's just see how she's getting on.
Well, it's a lot better than it was.
Wow. Have you installed a new gas hob there, Peg? In our next video, we're going to show you what we've learned and also share with you all our costs.
And we're going to be giving some clues to the destination of our next big trip.
Oh.